There have been so many times in my life where I've looked back when I'm trying to accomplish something. I've looked back and I've said, if only I'd started doing this earlier, if only I had committed to this endeavor a year ago, where would I be now? If only I'd done something, taken action towards something a year ago or 2 years ago, 4 years ago, whatever interval of time it is, if only I had taken action earlier. That's something that I've thought of many times where I wonder, how far would I be now? What position would I find myself in now if I had taken action and kept taking action, been consistent about it from a much earlier period of time? And for a while, that was kind of distressing and disheartening to me, is thinking, wow, I'd be in a much better situation right now if I had the courage and the discipline to have started this earlier and to have remained consistent and to have kept putting work in. I would be in a much better place right now. I wouldn't have to be going through what I'm currently going through. At a certain point, though, it's not helpful to have that perspective. The past is in the past, and you can't change anything about it. You can spend all your time being mad at yourself and being upset that you didn't start earlier, or you weren't consistent for long enough, or you started something and didn't finish it. You can be upset about that, but being upset about it doesn't get you anywhere. You can be angry and think, oh, I've betrayed myself. I wanted to do this, but I failed, or I should have started this earlier, but I just didn't have the resolve to do it. Being angry and upset and having this negative self-thought about yourself isn't going to get you anywhere. It might be cathartic in the moment to have all this emotion directed at yourself, all this anger, resentment, and, just general unease directed at yourself, but it's not instructive. It isn't helpful. And so once you've moved past that point, what you have to realize is, okay, I wasted X amount of time because I wasn't dialed in. I wasted all of this time. I could be where I could be at this point further down the road, but I'm not because I didn't start earlier or I didn't remain consistent in something which I told myself I was going to do. And so what's the actual helpful conclusion from that? The helpful conclusion is that the time is going to pass regardless. So let's say you're trying to do something. Let's use an easy example. Let's say you want to become physically fit, and maybe you try to go to the gym, you're off and on with it, you're not really consistent, and then a year down the line, you look at the scale or you look at yourself in the mirror and you come to find that you've really not changed at all, or even worse, you've actually deteriorated. Your physical abilities have gotten worse, your physical appearance has gotten worse, and you realize that you made this half-hearted resolution a year ago that you wanted to change something, you wanted to do something, you wanted to pursue some result, but because you were either inconsistent or because you weren't fully dialed in on it, you find yourself a year down the road and you realize that nothing has really changed. And I'm using a year because it's just an easy time frame for us to conceptualize, but this could be for any period of time. Some people try and fail and half-heartedly attempt something for multiple years on end. If you're lucky, you catch yourself doing it only a couple of weeks or months into that cycle. For me personally, there are some things that I've tried to do, tried to fix, tried to address, and I've gone through the cycle of, taking action, and that action sort of simmers out, and, you become demotivated, you slip back into bad habits, and then you have some sort of enlightening moment where you take action again, but then the motivation fizzles out. And what you find is after some amount of time has elapsed, you really haven't made any progress, even though you've always wanted to. You've wanted to achieve something, you've wanted to do something, but you just simply were not able to muster up and marshal the courage and the discipline to achieve it. So what you have to conclude from this, and the only logical response once you've made this realization that you've wasted your time or that you haven't been using your time judiciously, is that you have to understand and really come to terms with the fact that the time is going to pass regardless. You can make this realization really one of two ways. And I think the painful way to make this realization is what I've just described, where you've tried to do something and you haven't been assiduous in your dedication towards that goal, and you find that after some serious amount of time has elapsed, you haven't really made any tangible progress. The easier way to come to this realization is by just understanding intuitively, hey, I might not like doing this. I might not like eating healthy. I might not like going to the gym all the time. But guess what? 6 months from now, I'm still not going to like doing it. But the difference between where you're at in the current moment and where you could be 6 months from now is that, in the current moment, you can just keep pushing it off. But eventually, 6 months from now will be your current moment. And if the person that you were in the past who kept pushing off the difficult things makes that easy decision over and over, you will find yourself to be that same weak and unaccomplished person when 6 months in the future becomes your present moment. The point I'm trying to make is that you can't just keep pushing off difficult decisions and hard work for a later date. Sometimes you're doing it consciously, sometimes you're doing it unconsciously. But at the end of the day, whether you're doing it consciously or unconsciously, it doesn't really matter. The time is going to pass regardless, and so you need to take action. You need to exert your own agency and say, okay, I want to do this thing. Maybe I've failed at doing it in the past. What I've learned from that failure is that the time is going to pass regardless, and that I could half-heartedly attempt something for a year and see no progress. And that's a bitter pill to swallow. But if you've understood, hey, half-hearted effort, sort of flaky discipline, oscillatory levels of discipline is not sufficient to achieve things that are difficult or ambitious to do. And what you have to do is take that lesson and adjust the way you're acting. Here's the issue, is a lot of people will recognize something is wrong. They'll realize they're doing something wrong, or that they're acting suboptimally, or that they've been making mistakes. They can recognize it, they can verbalize it, and they are able to fully understand what they're doing wrong, but they're still unwilling to take the effort to correct it and address it. This is where you have to make a decision. This is the inflection point where you've made the realization that, hey, time's going to pass regardless. I've not been making progress. I've not been doing the things I said I was going to do. I'm not where I want to be. I understand exactly why that's the case. What are you going to do about it? This is the important decision you have to make. This is where the inflection point is going to happen, is how do you address, how do you react to that realization? And there's really just two ways you can react to it. The first is that you continue repeating the same mistakes even while being aware that you're making them. And this is really one of the most mentally torturous positions to be in, is you're doing the wrong thing, you're not acting the way you should, and you know that if you keep this up, 6 months down the line, a year down the line, whatever the interval of time is going to be, you're going to find yourself being tortured mentally by that same realization that I'm not doing what I should do. I've not been assiduous in my dedication to this goal and this task, and the time passed me by, but I didn't make the most of it. The other option is you take this realization that you've made and you take the fact that you understand what you've done wrong and you actually adjust your behavior. You change the way you're acting, and in doing so, you're able to actually learn from your mistakes, learn from your experience. And in that sense, it really wasn't, it wasn't all for naught. Let's say you attempted something for a year, but you weren't judicious in your efforts. You weren't really trying to A, be serious about it, and B, be consistent. 6 months down the line, you realize you've not made any progress. But if you realize, hey, there's a reason I didn't make any progress, and I'm going to switch up my act, I'm going to change what I'm doing to try to flip the script and actually dial in on this thing, and then you do start to make progress, those 6 months of on and off failure were not for nothing. They led you to a realization which helped you to understand what you were doing wrong and what you needed to do to change your behavior into something that works. And so this goes back to what I was saying at the beginning of the video. You can't be angry at yourself. You can't be resentful at yourself for failing something, even if it was on a long, period of time. Even if you failed at something for 4 years because you weren't disciplined enough or you weren't assiduous enough in your dedication to it. The only reason you should be mad at yourself is if you've come to this realization and you don't change anything. Because at that point, you're fully conscious of what you're trying to do, what you want to do, and what you're doing wrong. You know what must be done to correct it and to get better, and you're actively choosing not to address the issue. You're actively choosing not to implement the own solutions which you've figured out on account of your failure. And so this is something I've seen plenty of times in my own life where I have some goal that I'm pursuing, and I find just after weeks or months of effort. I just was not serious enough about it. I wasn't disciplined enough about it. The time passed me by and I didn't get anywhere close to where I wanted to be. So one thing that I've changed really in the last couple of months is that the first thing is that I've forgiven myself for those past failures, but one contingent condition of me forgiving myself for those past failures was that I said, okay, I can't change the past. I made some mistakes, but I'm going to take those mistakes that I made and I'm going to use those to inform my decisions so that I'm making better decisions and I'm acting in a better way going forward. And what I've started to do is I've said, 3 months from now, where do I want to be and what do I have to do to get there? Well, if I want to do something difficult, I'm not going to achieve that goal, or I'm not going to develop competence in that skill or whatever it happens to be by being half-hearted about it. I've had enough experience attempting things in a half-hearted manner to know that's not how you accomplish things that are impressive. And so the only way to be really good at something or to achieve a difficult goal, this is me drawing on the experience of failing and having spotty discipline and doing something and not seeing progress because I wasn't serious in my dedication towards that goal. Drawing on that experience, I'm saying, okay, what do I want to do and how am I going to change my behavior to achieve that? And really what it boils down to is the time's going to pass regardless. So I'm not going to take the easy way out because I know by taking the easy way out, by not adhering to a standard of discipline that I've imposed on myself, by betraying myself in that I said I'm going to do something or I said I'm not going to do something and failing in either of those regards, that's exactly how you find yourself 3 months down the line or whatever interval of time down the line that you find yourself at that point and you realize nothing has changed. So the whole point of this video that I want to make is that if you're someone like me who's been going through this sort of vicious cycle of trying to achieve something and you find that for one reason or another, after all that time has passed, you've really not made progress in that regard, you need to forgive yourself, but you need to understand that if you really do want to change your behavior, you have to learn from those previous mistakes. You have to understand that because the time is going to pass by you regardless, every single day it's a battle where you have to choose, am I going to do the right thing? Am I going to make choices today which are going to lead me to success 30 days from now or 3 months from now or a year from now? Or are my choices going to be the same sort of inconsistent and weak choices which I made in the past, which led me to invest a year of time into something and not see any substantial progress? At the end of the day, the sort of person you are and what you're capable of is determined by what you do and the choices that you make every day. Every decision you make is a vote for the type of person that you want to be. And so every lapse in discipline, every mistake that you make, which you could have avoided, all of those things, the decisions you make in that moment are votes towards the type of person you want to be. If you want to be the type of person that accomplishes hard things and does what they say they're going to do and achieves what they set out to do, you have to be voting for that with your decisions and with your actions every day. That's the biggest breakthrough I've had in the last couple of months. I don't think any of this is esoteric knowledge that is really difficult to come by, but I think understanding something in the abstract and actually implementing it in the material sense are two different things entirely. And the only way you can really take this knowledge and transmute it into actual real world action is by having a realization like I did and saying, okay, I've made these mistakes, I'm going to learn from them and I'm going to change my approach. With that said, guys, I hope you found what I said in this video to be helpful. If it resonated with you, let me know your thoughts. Do you agree with what I'm saying? Do you think, do you think what I'm saying makes sense? Do you have a different opinion? Please let me know. I would love to know it. But that really brings me to the end of the video. I will say I have a math tutoring business. If you or somebody you know has, you want help in high school math, ACT or SAT prep, or university level math, go to my website, get a free consultation. We'll figure out where you're at, where you want to be, and how I can help you to get there. Go to www.kuehrtutoring.com. That's KUEHR tutoring.com. Get a free consultation there today, and let me see how I can help you out. But other than that, guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope this video is helpful or at least insightful. And that's it. Have a good one.